Have you ever heard of transportation that defies common sense? Today, you'll learn about the most incredible ways to get to work that seem like a means of transport from a parallel universe. These stories will shock you. Overloaded transport, desperate passengers, and quirky routes. We will dive into a world where risk is an integral part of travel. This is a story about what drives people when there are no other options. What compels them to make such extreme decisions. You can expect stories that will send chills down your spine, and perhaps you'll reconsider your attitude towards public transportation. Imagine a bus traveling along winding roads, not only filled with passengers inside, but also with people sitting on the roof, clinging to the doors, and even hanging on the bumpers. This is not a scene from a movie, but a common reality in rural India. Here, transportation often becomes the only way to reach the city or a neighboring village. That's why passengers are willing to do anything to get inside, or at least hold onto the handrails on the outside. Standard Indian buses are designed to carry about 60 passengers, but in reality, they are packed with 2 or even 3 times that number. Up to 40 people manage to sit on the roof, while the aisles inside the bus are completely filled with standing passengers. Overloaded vehicles become so heavy that the braking system is pushed to its limits, and every sharp turn becomes a test for the driver. Why do people take such risks? In rural areas of India, there is often simply no alternative transportation. Buses are unaffordable and the only way for locals to get to work, school, or the market. Often, such a bus runs only once a day, and missing it means staying home for another day. Bus rollovers due to excessive weight happen frequently. Despite this, many residents continue to use these routes because they simply have no other means of transportation. On the roads of some African countries, you can see truly breathtaking and dangerous scenes. Trucks that are literally bursting from the overload. Their beds are packed to the brim with bags of grain, boxes of goods, construction materials, and on top of all this sit dozens of passengers. The goods are stacked so high that the truck resembles a tower, balancing on a narrow track. These trucks are designed to carry loads of up to 11,000 pounds. But in practice, their loads often exceed 22,000 pounds. In addition, passengers are arranged on the loads, up to 50 people, who cling to anything they can. On the sides, roofs, even hanging off the edges of the bed. Such overload makes controlling the truck nearly impossible. On sharp turns or during sudden maneuvers, the truck can lose stability and tip over, especially on uneven roads. Overloaded vehicles also damage the road surface, accelerating its deterioration. Moreover, due to the wear and tear of such vehicles, their brakes often fail, which can lead to serious accidents. In regions with limited access to infrastructure, trucks become a universal mode of transport, combining the functions of both public and freight transport. They deliver goods to remote areas where there are no other means of transportation. Locals are willing to take risks to reach their destination, as there are almost no alternatives. Such trips often end in tragedy. However, in the absence of a developed transportation system and a lack of regular public transport, people continue to use these overloaded trucks, risking their lives. In countries with developed river and lake transportation systems, overloaded boats are often seen carrying significantly more passengers than their technical specifications allow. People cram inside and sit on the edges, while cargo is stacked on top and even hangs over the sides of the boat. A standard motorboat or small vessel is designed to carry no more than 50 passengers, including a small amount of cargo. Sometimes, up to 150 people board such boats. They are accompanied by thousands of pounds of cargo, bags of groceries, building materials, and more. This doubles or triples the allowable load, making the vessel extremely unstable. Overloaded boats have low stability on the water. Even a small wave or sudden movement from passengers can lead to a loss of balance and capsizing. If the boat sinks, the chances of saving the passengers are minimal, as there are often no life jackets or equipment on board. In such water tragedies, dozens of people often perish. For many residents of remote regions, water transport remains the cheapest and most accessible means of transportation. Carriers, aiming to earn more, ignore safety standards, cramming boats beyond the allowable limit. Passengers are forced to agree to such dangerous trips due to a lack of alternatives, especially in cases where the ferry is the only way to school, the market, or work. Every year, overloaded boats cause numerous tragedies on the water, but without infrastructure development, the situation remains virtually unchanged. trains packed to the brim, a common sight in some countries. Passengers cram not only into the cars, but also occupy the roofs, stairs, and even the connections between cars. It's a spectacle that is both awe-inspiring in its scale and horrifying in its risks. A standard passenger train can hold up to 1,000 people, including seated and standing spots. But on such trains, sometimes up to 2,000 passengers travel. Of these, about 500 people may be on the roofs of the cars, holding onto handrails or sitting on ledges. Sometimes people even hang outside, gripping the door frames. At high speeds, even a small bump or sharp turn can throw passengers off. This often leads to serious injuries or fatalities. Additionally, passengers on the roofs of trains are in dangerous proximity to power lines. A touch or even close contact with the wires can result in fatal electric shocks. Additionally, low bridges and tunnels pose another deadly threat. Passengers on the roof often get injured or killed from collisions with these obstacles. Overcrowding on trains is the main reason for such dangerous journeys. In densely populated areas, especially during rush hours, seats on trains are taken long before they arrive. For those who can't get inside, the roof remains the only available option. Additionally, many choose this way of traveling to save on tickets, especially if the trip is short. Hundreds of people die each year due to these dangerous journeys, but for many, it remains the only way to get to work, school, or home. Solving the problem requires significant investments in transportation infrastructure and increasing the frequency of services, which is often unavailable in resource-limited countries. Transporting huge loads that exceed allowable limits is a sight often seen on the roads of some countries, especially in developing regions. Trucks designed to carry 44,000 pounds are loaded to the limit, sometimes leaving no chance for a stable ride. Containers or other heavy loads are often stacked, 5 to 6 rows high, which leads to a significant shift in the center of gravity. Sometimes additional supports and cables are even used to hold the structure in place, at least somewhat. An overloaded truck is extremely difficult to keep on the road, especially on turns or during sudden braking. Even small bumps can lead to tipping over. High stacking of containers creates the risk of individual sections falling right onto the road, which can threaten the lives of other road users. The bearings, brakes, and axles of the truck experience increased loads, which can lead to failure while in motion. Such overloads increase the stopping distance and reduce maneuverability, which leads to numerous accidents. The main motive for carriers is cost saving. Instead of making several trips that require more time and resources, they prefer to load the truck to the limit to deliver everything at once. In some cases, this is related to insufficient checks of trucks on the roads and the lack of strict penalties for overloading. They not only create danger on the roads, but also damage the infrastructure, including the destruction of the asphalt surface. Solving the problem requires increased oversight from road services and the implementation of strict restrictions to prevent such transport. In some countries, especially in Asia and Africa, bicycles are used to transport not only people but also large loads, such as furniture, building materials, or entire families. It's an impressive sight, where ordinary two-wheeled vehicles literally buckle under incredible loads. A regular bicycle supports 220 to 265 pounds, cyclist included. Often, these are models without reinforced frames and professional mounts, making their use under such loads even riskier. The weight of the transported cargo can reach 660 pounds. Sofas, chairs, mattresses, large bags of goods. Sometimes entire families, up to 5 people, including children, sit on the bicycle, often positioned on the frame, rack, or even on makeshift seats made from boards. With such weight, unstable and poorly secured items can fall onto the road, causing damage to pedestrians or cars. Bicycle brakes are not designed for such loads, making them practically useless for sudden stops. A person riding an overloaded bicycle risks physical strain, which can lead to fainting or falling. For many people, a bicycle is the only affordable and accessible means of transportation. The lack of cargo transport and the inability to pay for carrier services force them to resort to such methods. This is especially common in rural areas where there is no regular transportation, and the distances between settlements can be significant. Despite its spectacle, this method of transportation carries huge risks for cyclists and those around them. Improving infrastructure and the availability of light cargo transport could significantly ease their lives and enhance road safety. In Thailand, transporting elephants by truck is not only a necessity, but also a real challenge for drivers and equipment. Trucks with a capacity of up to 22,000 pounds are used to transport animals that can weigh over 11,000 pounds. The total weight of the cargo, including platforms and reinforcements, often reaches 26,400 pounds, which creates a serious overload. Bridges and roads, especially in rural areas, are not designed for such loads, increasing the likelihood of accidents. Due to the overload, the axles, suspension, and braking system suffer, which can lead to breakdowns on the route. The instability of the truck and prolonged standing on the platform cause stress to the animals and risk of injury. Overloaded vehicles are harder to control, especially on turns or inclines. Elephants are transported for various reasons: participation in festivals, tourist shows, rehabilitation in special centers, or relocation to reserves. In Thailand, there is no specialized transport for such purposes, forcing owners to use standard trucks despite the risks. Creating adapted vehicles could significantly reduce threats to both animals and road infrastructure. However, this remains a challenging task due to the high cost of such equipment. In Nigeria, wooden boats designed to carry about 200 people are often overloaded with up to 500 passengers. Such use of transport significantly exceeds all permissible limits and often leads to tragedies. Due to the overload, boats lose stability, especially in strong waves or sudden movements of people on board, increasing the risk of capsizing. Most of these boats lack life jackets or other equipment, making evacuation nearly impossible in case of an accident. The main reason for such overloading lies in the acute shortage of available transport, especially during the rainy season when roads become impassable. For residents, this is often the only way to get to work, the market, or school. Boat owners, trying to maximize profits, take on more passengers than is safe. Regular incidents of these boats capsizing highlight the need to improve transportation infrastructure and implement strict safety regulations for such transport. In Central America, trucks are often used to transport large numbers of people, especially during mass migrations. These vehicles, designed for a capacity of up to 22,000 pounds, are overloaded to the limit, accommodating up to 150 people. People climb into the bed, cling to the sides, and even sit on the roofs, trying to fit into the limited space. This situation is linked to extreme poverty and the lack of affordable alternatives for safe transportation. For many migrants, this is the only way to reach the border or navigate difficult stretches of the journey. However, the overload makes the trip extremely dangerous. Due to the cramped conditions, people risk getting injured, and in some cases, especially during long trips in hot weather, suffocation can occur. Falling from a moving truck also poses a serious threat to life. Many of these trucks do not meet safety standards, and accidents happen frequently. Despite the obvious risks, migrants are forced to use such transportation, hoping for a better future, which makes their journeys both desperate and tragic. By turning a blind eye to rules and standards, people continue to use transportation to the limit of its capabilities and even beyond. Each case of overloaded transport is not just a story of courage and desperation, but also of real danger that can cost lives. But is this risk worth the goals for which it is taken? Where does the line between necessity and recklessness end? These stories leave us with an important lesson: value safety and seek solutions that could free people from the need to take risks. I hope this material was not only interesting but also useful to you. Want to inspire people and share amazing stories? Join our team. We create content that surprises and makes you think. If you know how to edit videos, voiceover clips, or write engaging scripts, we are looking for you. Message our Telegram bot. The link is in the description. Let's make the world brighter together.